Main event of the evening.
Hello and welcome to These Days Are Ours, a Happy Days podcast. I'm Peter.
And I'm Joe.
And today we are discussing Gary Marshall's fifth directorial feature, It's Beaches.
Okay, Peter, tell us what happens in Beaches.
In the present day, singer CeCe Bloom rehearses the song Under the Boardwalk for a Hollywood Bowl concert. When she gets a note whose contents upset her, she cuts rehearsal short to go to the airport. There, she learns the plane she's expecting hasn't landed because of the fog.
What do you mean there are no flights landing in San Francisco? Is this the modern world or what?
So she has to drive. As she does so, she begins flashing back to 30 years ago. In Atlantic City in 1958, Hillary Whitney, age 11, wanders the boardwalk, lost, and runs into CeCe, also 11, and trying to make it as a child performer in Sammy Pinkner's Kitty Review.
Don't you recognize me? No.
CeCe helps her new friend figure out which hotel she's staying at, but before they can go back to it, CeCe's mother Leona interrupts. CeCe has an audition for a Hollywood talent scout. Hillary tags along. CeCe performs The Glory of Love for the talent scout and blows him away, only for her rival, Iris Lewandowski the handwalker, to show up. When the conventionally cute Iris gets the movie role instead, CeCe blames her mother for bragging about the audition and letting Mrs. Lewandowski know.
It's your fault it happened! It's your fault they picked her! It should have been me! You keep bragging about me! You gotta stop! You're ruining my career!
In the dressing room, Leona convinces CeCe to move back to the Bronx with her, where CeCe can be a normal child and see her father again. Hillary consoles CeCe, calling her the best singer she's ever seen, and they go back to the boardwalk. After exchanging addresses, Hillary takes her to the dining room of the fancy hotel she's staying in. Despite CeCe's discomfort there, Hillary wins over the waitstaff easily. It helps when your father is rich. Unfortunately, before they can enjoy their chocolate sodas, Hillary's father's girlfriend shows up to drag Hillary away, and CeCe returns to her mother. Before their separation, they affirm their friendship. Over the next 10 years, they continue writing to each other. CeCe continues taking dancing and singing lessons. Hillary takes horseback riding lessons.
Dear CeCe, sometimes I get sick of words like proper, well-bred, cultured.
CeCe's singing career stalls out after her mother moves to Miami, while Hillary goes to the same law school that all of her father's family did. After a performance at a nightclub, CeCe and Hillary reunite for the first time.
Oh, I've dreamt about this moment for so long. I can't believe we're actually in the same room together.
Look, honey, I don't know what you're after, but if it's what I think it is, you're not my type. Comprenez-vous?
Hillary has walked away from it all. Her job, her apartment, her father's money. CeCe convinces Hillary to stay with her for the time being. And though the apartment is small, and in less than ideal condition, the sight of it makes Hillary cry with joy as the realization of her newfound freedom sinks in. A few days later, Hillary drives CeCe to her job as a singing telegram, wearing a bunny costume, a non-sexy one. She sings a birthday song for John Pierce, who's impressed by her voice.
I mean, why do you waste your time doing this?
I can't help myself. I love to get dressed up like a rabbit and go out in public.
He runs a small theater on the west side, the Falcon Players, and asks her to audition. When he meets Hillary, the two of them are instantly attracted to each other, but a jealous CeCe cuts it short. While Hillary works as a nonprofit attorney, CeCe continues to pay her dues in small roles, ultimately landing a lead role in a musical allegory about industrialization. At the opening night after party, CeCe is once again frustrated when Hillary and John flirt.
I just can't shake the feeling that I know you well.
I know I feel the same way about you. Why is that?
Well, that's obvious. You must have met in a former life.
And not even a positive review calling her a Hannah Arendt of song is comforting. When the party gets too rowdy, everyone is arrested, and CeCe returns home in the morning to learn that Hillary and John have slept together. Hillary decides to move out, not necessarily because of this, but because she has to go back to San Francisco for the sake of her sick father. Once again, CeCe and Hillary communicate through letters.
What can I say? I'm now the adult, and my father's the child.
Hillary begins a relationship with her father's lawyer, Michael Essex. CeCe leaves the Falcon Players with John as her manager and boyfriend, and joins the vulgar Broadway show Sizzle. Hillary and Michael get married, and Hillary retires from practicing law. And shortly afterwards, CeCe and John get married too.
What'd you do that for?
This is the happiest moment of my life. I don't ever want you to forget it.
Years later, Hillary and Michael go see CeCe in Sizzle, in which she performs a song about Otto Titzling, the fictional inventor of the bra.
And now we take you back to 19th century Bavaria for a very sad story about two of my favorite subjects, industrial theft and bazooms.
Afterwards, they visit CeCe at her and John's very fancy apartment, and John is once more bowled over by Hillary. CeCe is surprised by Hillary's giving up her career, and asks what she does with her time. While shopping together one day, Hillary questions Cece's professed interest in having children, calling her obsessed with her career. When Cece demands to know why Hillary is being a bitch, Hillary realizes they've grown apart.
You're ridiculous.
I'm ridiculous.
We haven't grown apart. You've fallen apart.
Cece claims that when Hillary's father died, he took the best part of Hillary with him. Hillary calls Cece a pretentious little climber with insane ambition in a marriage of convenience. On the plane home, Hillary breaks down crying, while Cece wonders to John what she'll do without a best friend.
What will I do without a best friend?
You got me.
It's not the same.
Cece writes to Hillary, but Hillary keeps sending her letters back. Cece visits Leona in Miami, claiming to her mother that her marriage is in trouble because John stopped paying attention to her. Leona tells her daughter that she always wanted too much attention from everyone around her all the time, and wore them out.
I wouldn't leave anybody for not paying attention to me, because sooner or later you're gonna have to leave everybody.
When Cece returns to New York, John has left her because he's tired of being her hanger-on. Meanwhile, Hillary discovers Michael is having an affair. Cece's problems bubble up during a film she's making, and she ends up assaulting her director. She begins writing to Hillary again, and Hillary returns to talk to her. Cece blows up at her for taking away her friendship when Cece was at her lowest, and Hillary admits that she really was jealous of Cece and her talent, now she did everything she set out to do. Cece tearfully confides in her about the end of her marriage and getting thrown off the film, and the death of her dog. Cece then, finally, notices that Hillary is pregnant.
Hillary, you got so fat. I'm not fat. I'm having a baby.
And Hillary tells her about her plan to raise the child as a single mother. Cece supports Hillary throughout her pregnancy, and during a trip to the hospital, strikes up a friendship with gynecologist Dr. Richard Milstein that later turns romantic. Cece considers leaving show business to become Richard's wife and have children, only to change her mind again when her agent contacts her about the lead in a new musical. She leaves Hillary to break the news to Richard.
He's a very old friend of yours.
No.
He'd take it coming from you.
No.
He's your gynecologist.
The musical is being directed by John, who wanted Cece specifically to be in it. They make peace with one another. Hillary gives birth to a daughter she names Victoria Cecilia. Flashing forward another decade, Victoria is now a child. Hillary has returned to practicing law, and Cece has a Tony and a flourishing recording career. Hillary collapses at work and goes to the hospital. It turns out she has viral cardiomyopathy and needs a heart transplant, but due to her rare tissue type, the chances of there being a compatible heart before it's too late are very low. Hillary decides to spend what may be her last summer at her family beach house with Victoria, and Cece decides to go with her. Hillary, her condition worsening, grows jealous of Cece's bonding with Victoria.
I hate that she'd rather be with you, who has energy, who is fun. You told me to play with her. I know I did, but I didn't know it was going to make me feel like this.
And lashes out at Cece when Cece tries to come and get her to spend more time outside. Even so, Hillary does come out of her shell by the end of the summer. Hillary and Victoria return to San Francisco. Ultimately, Hillary collapses again, and Victoria is the one who finds her. Cece rushes to Hillary's side at the hospital. They return to the beach house with Victoria, and it's there that Hillary dies. Cece and Victoria attend her funeral together, after which Cece tells Victoria that Hillary wanted her to have custody of Victoria, but Cece only wants that if Victoria does too. Victoria, after being reassured that she can bring her cat, hugs Cece. The movie ends with a final performance of The Glory of Love, and Cece begins to tell Victoria about her mother.
We met when I was under the boardwalk smoking a cigarette.
You smoke when you were my age?
Yeah, sure.
What else did you do?
Whatever they told me not to.
Thank you, Peter. That was Beaches. It was released on Wednesday, December 21st, 1988. The big new movies in theaters at that time were
Twins, The Naked Gun, Scrooged, Rain Man, Working Girl, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, and Child's Play.
Peter, of all those choices, which ones appeal to you?
Child's Play. Absolutely Child's Play. I love that murderous little doll.
I do too. It was the only one of those that I didn't actually see in the theater. I didn't see it until it came to video, but now I realize I should have seen it in the theater so you can be in an audience of people screaming and laughing at the antics of Chucky.
Child's Play, a terrifying new movie.
But it was scary.
Beaches got off to a humble start in December, let's say, but it had real staying power in theaters, playing for months and eventually earning $57 million on a $20 million budget. That was a big deal back then. It was also a substantial success on television and home video. It was adapted for the stage as a musical in 2014 and remade for television in 2017.
Beaches was not something that was on my radar, so the other adaptations were also not on my radar prior to now.
Beaches was directed by Gary Marshall.
What I brought to it was certainly a male point of view in the sense that a lot of pictures which involve women's friendships, all the men in the picture are rotten guys, and that's not really honest.
And it was written by Mary Agnes Donahue, based on a novel by Iris Rayner Dart. Mary Agnes Donahue is a screenwriter from Queens whose other film scripts include
White Oleander, The Buddy System, Deceived, and Veronica Guerin.
She wrote and directed the films Paradise and Jenny's Wedding. Iris Rayner Dart is a writer from Pittsburgh, best known for Beaches and other novels like Beaches 2. But she also wrote for Love American Style, The Osmonds, and The Sonny and Cher Show.
I was the first woman writer on The Sonny and Cher Show. I worked for Cher for 4 years and wrote their TV show. And then I started writing novels.
And in fact, that Sonny and Cher thing is significant because Iris Rayner Dart says that the character of C.C. Bloom is based on Cher.
I didn't really see that when I was watching the film, but I suspect that it's more evident in the book. In the movie, obviously, the role is tailored more towards Bette Midler as a performer, and it definitely draws more from her career, I would say. But yeah, basing a character on Cher makes perfect sense. It reminds me of when I found out that William Peter Blatty based the mom in The Exorcist on Shirley MacLaine, who he had worked with for a while.
As for the music in this movie, the film's score is by French composer Georges Delerue, who worked on over 300 films from the 1950s to the 1990s. He was a favorite of European art house directors like Truffaut, Godard, Bertolucci, and Louis Malle, but that was just one aspect of his career. His other film work includes
Day of the Dolphin, Agnes of God, Anne of a Thousand Days, The Last Metro, A Little Romance, Biloxi Blues, Twins, Joe versus the Volcano, and literally hundreds more.
In 1988 alone, he did 9 other movies besides this one. Peter, what, if anything, did you think of the score for Beaches?
The score did not really stand out to me, and I guess that's a good thing, because in movies like this, if you are aware that the music is happening and is being used to sonically manipulate you, that is a sign that it is too obtrusive. It needs to be entirely subliminal.
I felt that some of the music cues were a little pushy and a little manipulative in this. Composer Mark Shaman, best known for the stage musical version of Hairspray, worked extensively as a songwriter and arranger on this film and portrays C.C. Bloom's piano accompanist.
C.C.
Diana, get me my bag and my coat.
Besides his many collaborations with Bette Midler, Mark is also closely associated with Saturday Night Live and has worked on too many stage musicals, TV shows, and movies to list here. South Park fans will know his work from the movies Bigger, Longer, and Uncut and Team America World Police. Peter, did you spot Mark Shaman in this film?
I did, yes. When I was like 10, I was mildly obsessed with the movie adaptation of Hairspray, so this was a lot of fun.
At the beginning of the film, we hear Under the Boardwalk, performed first by Bette Midler and then by the Drifters. The song was a top 10 hit for the Drifters in 1964.
Under the boardwalk, down by the sea, yeah.
Bette's version actually charted in Australia. Peter, what did you think of Bette Midler's version of Under the Boardwalk?
This performance kind of sets the stage, so to speak, for what the entire movie will be, which is that periodically it will stop so that Bette Midler can perform an entire song uninterrupted. I guess it's fine. Like, Bette Midler is a great performer, obviously, and most of the time the songs further the movie. I was kind of unfamiliar with this song until fairly recently when I started watching old episodes of American Idol, and this is one that shows up on American Idol basically whenever they do 60s week.
Under the Boardwalk by the Drifters has been a part of my life for as long as I can remember. I don't really love what Bette did to the song, which was to slow it down and to drench it in synthesizers.
Oh, the sun beats down and burns the tar up on the roof.
It is very 80s, trying to be the late 50s, early 60s. It reminds me a lot of the soundtrack to Dirty Dancing, but not as good.
When young C.C. Bloom performs The Glory of Love,
That's the story of, that's the glory of love.
the voice we're hearing is that of singer Melissa Garcia, since Bette Midler didn't think that Mayim Bialik's voice was convincing enough.
I actually felt like the voice sounded much older than my 12-year-old little body could convey, but I think it was something that Bette was very particular about, and, you know, rightfully so.
Bette later performs the song herself, of course. It actually dates back to 1936 and was originally made popular by Benny Goodman. Peter, what did you think of young C.C. Bloom singing The Glory of Love?
It's a good performance. It definitely does a good job at setting up who young Cece is as a performer and what she's after, but it is also kind of mildly creepy. Something that you brought up to me when you were watching it for the first time is Cece being exploited in the Kitty review? She's introduced wearing this sparkly leotard with, like, spangles on it, and I think she's wearing, like, fishnets. And when she first begins performing it, she's posing in a way that feels odd for an 11-year-old. It reminded me a lot of stuff you would see on Toddlers and Tiaras or Dance Moms. And again, it's called a kiddie review, which I can't help but feel like most of the people who go to see a kiddie review in 1958, and probably any other decade, are going to mostly be creepy adults.
Bette Midler performs The Glory of Love at an audition.
You gotta win a little, lose a little.
The other auditioners sang Give My Regards to Broadway and Que Sera, Sera. And I want to give a shout out to that guy singing Que Sera.
Yes, he is so great.
That was one of my favorite moments in the whole movie, was the guy singing Que Sera, Sera. I thought that was so funny. I was like, follow that guy for a while. What's his story? The song that Bette sings at the jazz club is a Cole Porter composition called I've Still Got My Health. It's from a 1940 musical called Panama Hattie, where it was performed by Ethel Merman.
I'm always a flop at a top-notch affair. Well, I've still got my health, so what do I care?
What did you think of I've Still Got My Health?
It's a very fun, smooth jazz performance. Midler shows a lot more restraint vocally in it, although she is still hamming it up in other ways. She's moving a lot, she's engaging with the audience. It does convey that Cece is incredibly talented, but also she is a lot as a performer.
This was also one of my favorite performances in the film because Cece is a little bit more relaxed and the arrangement is a little less pushy and over the top than most of the other songs in the movie. The Bunny Boy song that Bette Midler performs was written especially for this movie by Mark Shaman.
Life's kind of funny with a funny boy. He loves me so hard, he's my bundle of joy. I try to go to sleep, but it's just no use, cause all he really wants to do is reproduce.
What did you think of the Bunny Boy song?
It's fun. If I got that as a singing telegram, I think I would be slightly embarrassed, but that's coming from me as someone who doesn't really like singing telegrams. But it's a fun performance, and even if it is very obviously just there to move the plot along, it is believable that Bette Midler would impress this guy with her voice.
Barbara Hershey and Bette Midler sing a couple of traditional Christmas carols, God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen and Adeste Fidelis.
Leti triumphantes venite, venite in Bethlehem.
They allude to singing one dreidel song. I'll assume that this is I Have a Little Dreidel, a song whose Yiddish origins are disputed. The familiar English language version of that song has existed since 1927. To be clear, both actresses are Jewish. Midler recorded an entire Christmas album, Cool Yule, in 2006. What did you think of the Christmas Carol scene? Did you think it was cute or what?
It was kind of cute, but also, come on, Hillary, if your Jewish roommate doesn't want to sing Christmas carols with you, don't push her.
Bette Midler performs O Industry in her Falcon Players musical.
I am the captain, and this is my shrine.
Bette co-wrote this herself with singer-songwriter Wendy Waldman. Peter, what did you think of O Industry?
This scene is amazing. It's like this weird Bertolt Brecht, Kurt Weill by way of Andrew Lloyd Webber musical. It looks fantastic. I want to see this whole musical. I need to see what else is in this show.
It is totally unrealistic that this would be an underground theatrical production in the early 1970s, since it's very 1980s in its arrangement. It's also crazy that this entire song, which has nothing to do really with the plot of the rest of the movie at all, is just performed in its entirety, and it's fully staged with all these strange costumes and things, and it's also one of the best moments in the movie. At the cast party, we hear Thunder and Lightning by Shai Coltrane, a hit from 1972, so that gives you some idea when the scene is supposed to be happening. When Cece and John play pool, you can hear Rock and Roll Hoochie Coo by Rick Derringer. This was a hit from 1973, so again, the movie is using music to tell you that time has advanced a little bit here. Bette Midler performs Otto Titzling from the fictional show Sizzle 76. This is another song that Midler co-wrote herself.
His inventions were failures, his future seemed bleak. He fled to the opera at least twice a week.
She even performed this very song for Johnny Carson on The Tonight Show. The lyrics reference Aida, a tragic opera from 1871 by Giuseppe Verdi. So what did you think of Otto Titzling from Sizzle 76?
Well, Cece said that Sizzle was vulgar, and she was right. It is very stupid, but it is a lot of fun. It's not as fun as O Industry, but it's catchy. It's got boobs in it. if that's what you're into.
I would say it's a different kind of fun than O Industry. One of the first places I ever heard Bette Midler's music was, I swear to God, on the Dr. Demento show.
That actually makes a lot of sense.
And this was the kind of music that she was known for earlier in her career. So this would have been the kind of song that Dr. Demento probably would have played. During a pregnancy montage, Bette Midler sings Baby Mine from the 1941 film Dumbo, in case you forgot that this was a Disney movie. Peter, what did you think of the Baby Mine montage?
It's a good montage. It establishes what is happening over a period of time. Midler performs the song well.
I was not a great fan of this. Gary Marshall somewhat overuses montages. I believe we get about 3 montages in the course of about half an hour in this film.
Maybe it's to be expected given that this movie takes place over a period of 30 years, but it's not very elegant.
I also started thinking about how Baby Mine should be about a hole in the ground where you go digging for babies, like a coal mine or a gold mine.
If a child ever asks me where babies come from, that's what I'm telling them. They come from the baby mine.
During a heart disease montage, Bette Midler sings I Think It's Going to Rain Today, written in the early 1960s by Randy Newman and recorded by many artists over the years, including Newman himself. He now finds that song too maudlin. Did you find a song too maudlin?
Given the serious subject matter, I think it is maudlin enough for this scene, even if it is a bit obvious, let's say.
I am still an avowed fan of Randy Newman, and I Think It's Going to Rain Today is never going to be one of my favorite songs by him. And so now we've had 2 Gary Marshall movies in a row with Randy Newman songs that I didn't really like. Cece is grieving over Hillary's illness, and Hillary is studying up on cardiomyopathy, and she's in a library and she's going through all these books. And then she finds something that makes her pull back from the book in horror and cry. And I thought, oh, on page 749, paragraph 3, there must have just been a sentence that said, bitch, you're going to die. And she's like, what? And then she pulls back. Like, what did she find in that book? As they drive to the beach house, Bette Midler, Barbara Hershey, and Grace Johnston sing You Are My Sunshine, the state song of Louisiana.
You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away.
What did you think of that moment?
It's a very sweet little moment. It's not a full musical number. It's just this nice moment between this little found family as they're going to be together. I liked it a lot.
On the beach, Bette Midler and Grace Johnston sing Ballin' the Jack.
Spread your loving arms way out in space. Then you do the eagle rock with style and grace.
A popular jazz song from the 1910s. It was parodied on the Flintstones with new lyrics about driving a bus. That's where I first heard this song.
Now shove your loving hand way out in space and ease it into gear with style and grace.
Ballin' the Jack is a weird song for me because I constantly forget how it goes, but the title is buried into my brain. I think because I first heard it as a child and I had no idea what it meant. And to an extent today, I still don't.
During yet another montage, as Hillary is dying, we hear Bette Midler sing Wind Beneath My Wings, a ballad written by Larry Henley and Jeff Silbar in 1982.
It must have been cold there in my shadow.
It had already been covered by numerous artists in the 1980s, including
Gladys Knight, Lee Greenwood, Lou Rawls, Sheena Easton, and more.
You know, it must have been cold standing there in my shadow. You never had the sunlight on your face.
But it was this version by Bette Midler that topped the charts in the summer of 1989, 6 months after the movie. Ultimately, Wind Beneath My Wings won Grammys for Record of the Year and Song of the Year. Peter, if there's one thing that people know about this movie, it's Wind Beneath My Wings. But what did you think of it?
I have never liked this song. It's always just sounded incredibly self-aggrandizing to me. It's just a very backhanded compliment of a song. Oh, it must have been so cold there in my shadow. Off, no.
The narcissism of this song really struck me, and it strikes me every time I hear it.
No, you're the most selfish, self-centered,
This is a song by an egotistical monster who has learned nothing from this experience. And can you imagine having this song sung to you and thinking, wait, is that what you thought our relationship was? I was the wind beneath your wings. I was humoring you this entire time. You know what I mean? Like, are you kidding? That's what you thought we were?
It doesn't really fit their dynamic in this movie. I was kind of thinking back to when Hillary accused Cece of having insane ambition.
I did like, though, in the montage, when you see Barbara Hershey dying in the beach chair, that it pans up, and not only do you see a sunset, you also see somebody riding by on a white horse. And I was like, oh, they are not going subtle with this. Okay.
Gary Marshall knows filmmakers who use subtext, and they are all cowards.
During the final concert scene, Bette Midler sings The Glory of Love once again, this time as a dramatic ballad.
Last love story
what did you think of The Glory of Love as the finale to this movie?
I liked it a lot more than The Wind Beneath My Wings. I think it's a much nicer through line through this movie than Wind Beneath My Wings is.
Yeah, I would definitely say because that song is woven all through the movie and we see it at different points in their life, it's a much more appropriate way to end the movie. As for our main cast members, obviously we have to start with Bette Midler as Cece Bloom.
Oh no, Bette Midler!
Bette is a world-renowned singer, actress, and comedian from Honolulu, Hawaii, who got her start in show business in New York in the 1960s as a stage actress. In the 1970s, she famously performed at a gay bathhouse called the Continental Baths with pianist Barry Manilow. In 1972, she and Manilow made a very successful album together called The Divine Miss M that launched Bette's singing career. She didn't break into the movies, however, until 1979's The Rose, in which she played a fictionalized version of Janis Joplin. Bette's career went into a slump in the 1980s.
That's bad.
But she made a comeback when she signed with Disney's Touchstone Pictures in 1985 and started appearing in such hits as Ruthless People, Down and Out in Beverly Hills, and this film.
That's good.
She has continued to work extensively in film and TV while also making albums and performing live.
Can I go now?
Peter, what did you think of Bette Midler as Cece Bloom?
Watching this movie, I was reminded a lot of Roger Ebert's review of Funny Girl, where he said that he didn't really like anything about it except for Barbra Streisand's performance. And luckily, Barbra Streisand's performance was most of the movie. I think in Beaches, they definitely knew what they had with Bette Midler. That's why they keep stopping the movie so she can perform full songs. And actually, now that I'm saying that out loud, maybe a better comparison would be Elvis Presley movies, where they're like half actual movies, but mostly they're just there to be ads for Presley's soundtracks. It is very obvious that the character of Cece has been tailored to fit Midler as a performer, and for the most part, she does it very well. I do think the movie does this weird thing during its middle part, where it's like, Cece is too ambitious, and she's disinterested in real relationships, and why is that inherently a bad thing? If this movie was about men, it wouldn't have the weird scene where Hillary's like, well, I don't think you really are interested in having children because you're too selfish.
The movie definitely judges Cece for being ambitious and a woman at the same time.
Weirdly enough, that is something that is kind of also in Funny Girl. Funny Girl has this thing of like, Fanny Bryce, because you have this incredibly successful career, your husband had to become a gambler. But also the thing about Funny Girl is that, like, you don't really remember that part about Funny Girl. You just remember, wow, Barbra Streisand is killing it. Maybe someday we'll be able to have movies about successful women that aren't about how that's a bad thing.
Your enjoyment of Beaches really depends on your enjoyment of Bette Midler as an actress and a singer. And fortunately, I like Bette Midler as an actress and a singer. I find her entertaining. I find her compelling to watch. I like the way she sings. I like to watch her act. I like to watch her do comedy. So if you want that, this is what Beaches is. It's a vehicle for Bette. We also have Barbara Hershey as Hillary Whitney Essex.
I woke up this morning and I thought, this is it. And I left. My job, my father, my apartment.
Barbara is an actress from Hollywood who has been appearing in films and television since the mid-1960s. She first started gaining a fan following for her TV work before moving on to career-defining roles in such movies as The Babymaker and Martin Scorsese's Boxcar Bertha. In the early years of her career, she was known as a free-spirited hippie flower child. She even changed her name to Barbara Seagull for a while and had a son with David Carradine that they named Free Carradine. He later changed it to Tom Carradine. Later, she wanted to be taken more seriously in the film industry, so she toned down her image, changed her name back to Barbara Hershey, and started taking more straight-laced roles like this one in Beaches, plus Hannah and Her Sisters, Hoosiers, and Scorsese's The Last Temptation of Christ. She also won acclaim for films like Shy People, A World Apart, and Darren Aronofsky's Black Swan. More recently, you may have seen her in the horror thriller Strange Darling. Peter, what did you think of Barbara Hershey as Hillary Whitney Essex?
This is a movie about female friendship that is very much tilted in favor of one of the characters. Cece is the character who gets a lot more fun stuff to do. She is the reason why this movie got made at all. And Hillary kind of has to be the boring one. She's the one who is a lawyer, and then she retires from being a lawyer to be a housewife, and then she dies. And Barbara Hershey definitely does do a lot to make this character more engaging. I really liked the scene where she breaks down crying in Cece's apartment because she's just so happy to finally be free.
You don't know what it's been like for me. My father controlled everything I did, even down to the kind of law I practiced.
And it's not super fun, but I did kind of like her argument with Cece in the boutique. I was kind of hoping for it to escalate into a Dynasty-esque brawl.
I was kind of hoping for that too, because all through this film, I was thinking of films like Whatever Happened to Baby Jane and Death Becomes Her, which are about long-standing rivalries between women.
It does kind of have the thing that Baby Jane had, where like one of the main characters is much more boring than the other. Death Becomes Her, I think, manages to balance it out much more evenly. And both Meryl Streep and Goldie Hawn are a lot of fun in that movie.
Whatever Happened to Baby Jane even starts with a flashback to Atlantic City, where one of the women, as a little girl, is a performer in a show. So it's very similar to The Beaches.
I've written a letter to Daddy.
Barbara Hershey has a tough role here because she has to be the boring one, the serious one, the unfun one. To the extent that Hillary Whitney Essex emerges as a character at all, it's because of Barbara Hershey's performance. We also have John Hurd as John Pierce.
Well, it's nice to meet you, Brer Rabbit, you and your voice.
John was a theater, film, and television actor from Washington, D.C., who worked from the late 1970s to the 2010s. He may be most known for Home Alone and Home Alone 2, but his resume is extensive. His films include Chilly Scenes of Winter, Cutter's Way, Martin Scorsese's After Hours, Cat People, and a couple of Penny Marshall movies, Big and Awakenings, but he was also well known for his roles on such TV shows as The Sopranos and Prison Break. John died at the age of 71 in 2017. Peter, what did you think of John Hurd as John Pierce?
I think the funniest thing about his character is how obviously he's in love with Hillary. Every time he looks at her, you can practically hear the angels singing and the trumpets playing. Then after she leaves, he just hooks up with Cece. Obviously, it feels much more pedestrian because it's supposed to be. Like Hillary says, it is basically a marriage of convenience, but I was confused by it at all. It is very love the one you're with, but also you don't have to do that. You don't have to sleep with someone just because she's there and she's attracted to you. And we don't spend a ton of time with them. We get one moment where they're in bed together and she's happy that he said he loved her, but their relationship feels very... And then this happens, and it almost immediately ends with him leaving her because men don't like it when women are ambitious, I guess. But they reconcile later on, so that's nice.
I don't know that the John Pierce character was fully thought out. His number one character trait is that he's obsessed with Hillary, and whenever he has a conversation with Cece, it's always like, so how's Hillary doing? And I thought when they're in the pool hall shooting pool, and then John asks Cece about Hillary, I thought Bette Midler was just going to walk into the background and start beating her head against the bar. But I think John Hurd is actually quite good in the movie. I think he's quite a compelling actor. And you have to believe that both Cece and Hillary would like this guy. And I think John Hurd does make him magnetic enough that you can believe that these two women would be interested in him. We move on now to Spalding Gray as Dr. Richard Milstein.
I traveled through a hurricane to see you on Broadway.
Spalding was a New York actor, writer, and performance artist best known for his one-man shows, including Swimming to Cambodia, which was based on his experiences making the movie The Killing Fields, and Monster in a Box. Although Spalding worked in film and television from the 1970s to the 2000s, including a memorable role in the movie True Stories, he was most often seen as himself, relating his own experiences on stage in his dryly humorous way. He died in 2004 at the age of 62. Peter, what did you think of Spalding Gray as Dr. Richard Milstein?
He's a very strange character because he only appears in like 3 scenes, and he doesn't have a huge impact on the plot. He and Cece meet at the hospital. They start dating each other, and Cece decides, okay, maybe I can give up show business and get married and have kids. And then she changes her mind when she gets offered a new role. She leaves, and Hillary has to be the one to break it to him that, yeah, their engagement is over. Cece's going back to showbiz. And then they meet again when Hillary is giving birth, and it turns out that he's getting married to someone else. So I guess that's all. I don't think this is a great showcase for him as a performer. It sounds very different from most of what he was doing.
When this movie was made, Spalding Gray was incredibly famous and popular. And so when I saw his name in the opening credits, I thought, wow, I don't even remember Spalding Gray being in this movie. And he was a big deal in the 1980s. What happened? And so then I watched the movie and I remembered why I didn't remember Spalding Gray, because Dr. Richard Milstein is just a nothing part that has no impact on the plot really at all. And I didn't even know why he's there. Bette Midler doesn't even have the decency to break up with him in person. That's how unimportant Dr. Richard Milstein is to this movie. So I'm sure for Spalding Gray, this was an experience, I guess. He might have monologued about it.
He probably got a nice paycheck.
I hope he did. We also have Lainey Kazan as Leona Bloom.
You know, when I didn't find you in your dressing room, you know what I thought? I thought you were dead.
Lainey is a Brooklyn-born singer and actress who has worked extensively in film, theater, and television since the 1960s. She has won an Emmy, a Tony, and a Golden Globe for her work. She may be best known for My Big Fat Greek Wedding and its sequels. She was initially hesitant to play Leona in Beaches since she's actually only 5 years older than Bette Midler, but she was so eager to work with Bette on any project that she eventually accepted. Lainey's other credits include The Nanny, Modern Family, Grey's Anatomy, The King of Queens, and numerous Adam Sandler films. Peter, what did you think of Lainey Kazan as Leona Bloom?
Leona and Cece, in the first flashback scene, have this very weird dynamic where it's less that Leona is a stage mother and more that Cece is her own stage mother and Leona is just also kind of there. I found it very funny. It's kind of like if in the musical Gypsy, June was the one who was running everything and Madame Rose was just also there. It is extremely funny when little Cece is yelling at her mother for ruining her career. I guess that does explain why when Leona shows up again, her reaction to Cece is just, yeah, you needed attention from everyone and I couldn't give that to you anymore.
I thought it was funny that Leona moved to Florida specifically to get away from Cece. I think Lainey Kazan is actually pretty funny in this part. Lainey was maybe a little hesitant to do this, not only because of the age, but because it's kind of a stereotypical Jewish mother.
Yes, it is very much that.
We also have James Reed as Michael Essex.
I wish I didn't have to go back tonight.
You really have to. Can't you stay one more day?
Oh, I could quit my job.
Good. I like it. One more day. Come on.
James is a film and television actor from Buffalo who's been appearing on screens big and small since 1982 when he guested on Cheers. He's had recurring roles on Remington Steele, Charmed, Wildfire, General Hospital, and Days of Our Lives, where he was a regular for 10 years. His movies include Legally Blonde, he's Ellie's dad in those movies, Not Another Teen Movie, 8 Men Out, and more. Peter, any thoughts on James Reed as Michael Essex?
Watching this movie, I spent most of his scenes looking at him wondering, where do I know him from? I know that face, where do I know him from? And then I finally remembered that he was the dad on Charmed. Michael Essex is the most stereotypical wasp you can imagine. He is snooty, he is condescending, he is aghast by Cece's lowbrow performance in Sizzle, but he manages to loop back to being kind of fun about it. So I would say he's not a total loss. He's not as much fun as Grant in Overboard, but when he is on screen, I am happy he is on screen. It makes sense that he's Elle's dad in Legally Blonde because that's kind of the same role, basically.
James Reed is a professional and he knows how to play a character like this. They don't give Michael that much to do, but I think James does what he does competently enough. The movie just kind of runs out of uses for Michael, so they just write him out of the movie. He just goes into the phantom zone. We also have Grace Johnston as Victoria Essex, Hillary's daughter.
Cece's towel's on the floor.
Oh, pick it up.
If I leave my towel on the floor, you always make me pick it up myself.
She's a guest.
Grace is an actress from New Jersey who's been working in TV and film since the 80s. By the time she did this movie, she'd already appeared on The Cosby Show and The Equalizer. Since this movie, she has appeared on such shows as The Closer and Ghostwriter, plus the movies One Good Cop, Camp, and Bloodlines. Any thoughts on Grace Johnston as Victoria Essex?
Before I had actually watched this movie, I had heard that Beaches was a really powerful weepie. People who love this movie love crying to it. And I didn't really get that for most of this movie, with the exceptions of two scenes that feature Grace Johnston. And one of them is when she finds that her mother has collapsed, and she doesn't really know how to react to it except to embrace her mother and beg her to wake up. And the other scene is one with Cece, where Cece is telling her, your mother wanted me to have custody of you and raise you, but I will only do that if it's what you want to. And Victoria, she asks if she can stay in this house, and she can't. And she wonders about her father, who has never been part of her life. And ultimately, she asks Cece if she can keep her cat. And they hug, and that worked on me. I was very impressed by her performance as a child actor. She is very cute, but they don't draw too much attention to her cuteness. It is a surprisingly powerful, dramatic performance.
I think Grace Johnston is one of the best things about the last third of the movie. I was not really moved by the story of Cece and Hillary, but the toughest scene for me to watch, because it feels so real, is when Victoria finds Hillary unconscious on the floor. You can imagine being a kid in that situation and being scared and being panicked and feeling helpless. That scene is really emotionally effective. I think to the extent that this movie had any emotional impact on me at all, it was because of Grace Johnston. Speaking of child performers in the film, we have Mayim Bialik as Cece, age 11.
I am none other than the fantastic, world-famous, child wonder, Cece Blue.
Mayim is an actress from San Diego, best known for playing the title character on the sitcom Blossom from 1990 to 1995, and for playing Amy Farrah Fowler on Big Bang Theory from 2010 to 2019. Before Beaches, she appeared in the movie Pumpkinhead. Early in her career, she also had a recurring role on Webster. In the years since Beaches, she has appeared in dozens of films and TV shows, including her own sitcom Call Me Kat, while still finding time to complete a PhD in neuroscience at UCLA. Peter, I can remember, and Mayim Bialik has confirmed this, Beaches is the thing that put her on the map. Her scenes in the movie got a ton of attention. It's what led to her getting Blossom. What did you think of Mayim Bialik as Cece?
Child Cece is kind of a weird character. She might not have been necessarily an easy character to play. She has to be this larger-than-life character already by the time she is 11. She shows up and she disrupts Hillary's quiet little wasp life. She also has to do it wearing this spangly leotard the entire time. Child Cece is this jaded showbiz professional. Bialik doesn't really necessarily make this character realistic, but at the very least, she does make it believable. You just kind of have to sit there and nod like, yes, this 11-year-old child already knows the score and she knows what she wants, and she's going to keep powering through it. She does do a good job of believably playing a young Bette Midler without just doing an impression. There is definitely some very obvious continuity between their performances.
That is what landed her this role, her ability to look like and talk like Bette Midler. Cece at age 11 talks like a character from a Damon Runyon story or something, and she comes into the movie like Pennywise the clown. She's under these bleachers smoking a cigarette, and she's like, "Hey kid, you want to drag on my cigarette?"
I, Georgie, am Pennywise the dancing clown. You are Georgie.
At the time, everybody was like, oh, isn't it cute that this little kid is so precocious and looks and talks just like a little Bette Midler? And that was a novelty act in 1988. It seems a little less charming to me now. That has nothing to do with Mayim Bialik, who totally nails the part. It's just that the part is something that I didn't find all that amusing in 2025.
I feel like they didn't think through a lot of the implications here. They started with Cece as she is now and kind of worked backward from there. And they ended up going into a very weird place.
We also have Marcy Leeds as Hillary, age 11.
Personally, I think walking on your hands is kind of creepy.
Marcy is a former child actress from Port Jefferson, New York, who had a brief but productive screen career in the late 80s and early 90s. She had a recurring role on Beauty and the Beast. She's also in the 1987 horror film Near Dark and a few miniseries and made-for-TV movies. She later pursued a career as a surgeon and was one of the doctors who saved the life of Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords. Peter, any thoughts on Marcy Leeds as Hillary?
As with Barbara Hershey and Hillary, she has a considerably less fun role to play. I don't know if Little Cece is necessarily a fun role in retrospect, but you can see that there is a lot there, and in this case, there is considerably less. I do think that Marcy Leeds is very good at playing someone who is just amazed by Cece. There's a scene of just her looking at Cece performing with absolute awe, even if the performance itself is kind of iffy, and I did also really like her in the fancy hotel dining room where she's just like, yes, get me a soda, my father is rich, let my friend stay here too. I thought she very easily goes from scared child on the beach to amazed by her new friend to perfectly confident in her element, which is fancy society.
Marcy Leeds is not given as fun or flashy a role as Mayim Bialik. It's maybe not so fun to be the little girl who has to just be in awe of Cece Bloom, but somebody had to play that part. And I think Marcy does very well with it. We have the usual cameos by members of the Marshall, Paris, and Reiner families in this movie, plus cameos by Eddie Mecca as one of the Falcon players.
I was so happy when I spotted Eddie Mecca.
Eddie is great in this movie. He has actually several scenes in the movie.
You gonna take this tramp's word over mine?
We also have Frank Buxton as a doctor, Hector Elizondo as a judge, and veteran character actor Phil Leeds, who played a crooked club owner on Happy Days, as Sammy Pinkners. You can also look for Linda Goodfriend as the stage mother of Iris Mayandowski.
Hector Elizondo was a lot of fun as the judge who marries Cece and John.
Here's her tape. I've got to get back to my lunch.
I loved the detail that he is wearing a cast around his neck, and it's never called attention to. Nobody says anything about it. It's just, yes, he got into some sort of accident earlier, and we're not talking about it. It's not important.
Hector was quite funny and amusing in his one scene. And I think by this point in their working relationship, Gary Marshall let Hector Elizondo have a little bit of free rein in shaping his characters. And I think you can see a little bit of that in his scene as a judge. As for cultural and historical references in the movie begins at the Hollywood Bowl, an amphitheater in Los Angeles that opened in 1922 and is one of the best known and loved music venues in the world. It has played host to all kinds of performances, from operas to concerts by Jimi Hendrix, the Beatles, the Supremes, the Rolling Stones, and more. Monty Python even made a film there in 1980.
Very nice to be here at the Hollywood Bowl this evening.
A stagehand mentions to Cece that the strings and horns haven't arrived yet. He calls them the Claude Rains Orchestra. Well, British-American actor Claude Rains appeared in many films, plays, and TV shows from the 1920s to the 1960s, including Casablanca. He will always be remembered most for playing the title role in The Invisible Man in 1933.
All right, you fools. You've brought it on yourselves. Everything would have come right if you'd only left me alone.
Cece drives from Los Angeles to San Francisco. She's looking at a 6-hour drive. The guy at the car rental place mentions the I-5, a major interstate that runs parallel to the Pacific Ocean from the Mexican border to the Canadian border. For at least part of the way, however, Cece takes the 405, a bypass auxiliary route of the I-5. And I'm sure if I lived in California, all of what I just said would make some kind of sense. I kind of wish that the Californians from Saturday Night Live were here to explain.
Get back on San Vicente, take it to the 10, then switch over to the 405 North and let it dump you out into Mulholland where you belong.
Young Hillary stays at the Marlboro Blenheim Hotel, which was a fixture in Atlantic City from 1906 until it was demolished in 1978. The hotel is also referenced in the TV show Boardwalk Empire. The movie misspells Marlboro, though, apparently confusing the hotel with a brand of cigarettes. Bally's now stands where the Marlboro used to be. Incidentally, the Atlantic City scenes and beaches were actually shot at Coney Island. Mayim Bialik had great memories of going to Coney Island, and I think it's because Coney Island in the 80s looks like how we would want old-timey Atlantic City to look.
Yeah, so, I think it would be a lot of fun to go to Atlantic City and have my picture taken in one of those old-timey photo booths, go play some games. That would be fun, I think.
Cece jokes about committing suicide by overdosing on vitamin A.
I was just about to commit suicide by taking an overdose of vitamin A when your letter arrived telling me I'm a genius and don't lose heart.
While extremely high levels of the vitamin can be toxic, death is rare. There used to be a widespread myth about vitamin A being poisonous. I did not grow up with that myth. Had you ever heard of that?
I had not, no.
When Cece tries to be a jazz singer, she performs at a fictional nightclub called the Blue Cave. There really is a famous New York jazz club called the Blue Note. It opened in 1981 in Greenwich Village and is still operating today. When she breaks free of her former life, Hillary quotes a famous speech that Martin Luther King Jr. gave in Washington, D.C. on August 28, 1963.
Free at last! Free at last! Thank God Almighty! We are free at last!
Notably, she changes the line, "We are free at last," to "I am free at last." What did you think of Hillary quoting Martin Luther King? And is that supposed to be a cringy moment?
I think it is. I think the joke is supposed to be that she has these liberal principles, but she's also limited by the fact that she comes from a ridiculously privileged background. That's something that isn't really given a lot of attention in this movie. Once she marries Michael and becomes just this ladies who lunch style well-off housewife, that basically gets forgotten entirely. Most of the scenes where she and Cece are roommates are largely focused on Cece's music career. I wish there had been more focus on that.
When she's in her rabbit costume, Cece says, "If you call me Bugs, you're dead."
If you call me Bugs, you're dead.
Bugs Bunny first appeared in Porky's Hare Hunt in 1938, but wasn't called Bugs until Elmer's Pet Rabbit in 1941. He's named after animator Ben Bugs Hardaway. Cece also identifies herself as Brer Rabbit.
I'm Brer Rabbit.
In the 19th century, writer Joel Chandler Harris collected and published numerous stories that had been passed down orally by African Americans of Caribbean descent in the South. These stories include the adventures of a sly trickster bunny called Brer Rabbit. They eventually formed the basis for the 1946 Disney film Song of the South. So this is another little Disney reference in the movie.
Brer Rabbit had a way of always doing things he had no business doing in the first place.
Cece mentions a play in which a man is buried in sand up to his neck. She's playfully referencing Happy Days, a 1961 play by Samuel Beckett. And I thought it was so funny that there would be a sly little Happy Days reference hidden in beaches.
Yeah, that was fun. I liked the confirmation that the Falcon players are meant to be this small, cultured group. And that makes Cece leaving to be in this Broadway show about boobs an act of selling out.
When she dyes her hair blonde, Cece wonders aloud if she looks like Marilyn.
Do I look like Marilyn? I don't look a thing like Marilyn.
Norma Jean Mortensen, a.k.a. Norma Jean Baker, an actress and model from Los Angeles, started out as a brunette, but in the mid-1940s dyed her hair platinum blonde and changed her name to Marilyn Monroe. Depending on how you look at it, that decision either turned out really well or really badly. At the ACLU office, we see a real 1968 campaign poster for Senator Eugene McCarthy that promises peace and looks like a blue and red striped dove. The Village Voice compares Cece Bloom to Hannah Arendt, and Cece has to ask Hillary who that is.
Earth Mother Bloom is a veritable Hannah Arendt of song.
Who's that? She a singer?
No, a sociologist, philosopher, radical. It's a positive review.
Hillary's quick explanation is accurate. Arendt was a German-American philosopher and author whose ideas on wealth, power, government, propaganda, totalitarianism, and the banality of evil, I believe that's her phrase, were quite influential in the 20th century. Arendt died in 1975, but the rise of Donald Trump has sparked new interest in her work in recent years. Hillary says she misses shopping at Bergdorf's. Bergdorf Goodman is a luxury department store located on Fifth Avenue in New York. It's been in business since 1899, but in 2024, it was purchased by Saks Global. I don't think that's a good sign. These are not boom times in retail.
Nope.
In John's apartment, there's a poster for The Shoeing Up of Blanco Ponset, an extremely obscure one-act play by George Bernard Shaw from 1909. Hillary, Cece, and their respective husbands go to Tavern on the Green, a legendary New York restaurant located in Central Park in a former sheep pen. From 1934 to 2009, it attracted famous people from all walks of show business. For a few years after it closed, it was a visitor center and gift shop. It reopened in 2014 and is still going today as of this recording. I'm not big on fancy restaurants. I'm not sure that I would even want to go to Tavern on the Green. Would you?
No.
In this movie, you're never more than 5 minutes away from somebody flattering Cece or saying you're a genius or you're a superstar or you're really famous or we really love you. That's part of what the scene is, that she goes into Tavern on the Green and everybody trips all over themselves to wait on her.
Mm-hmm.
And the waiter even says, oh, somebody more famous than you just walked in. I'm like, oh, this is Bette Midler's ego running amok. John says, what is this, Cece? The Spanish Inquisition?
The Tribunal of the Holy Office of the Inquisition was a powerful organization within the Catholic Church that began in 1478 in Spain. Its ostensible purpose was to root out so-called heretics in both Europe and the Americas, but its real purpose was to consolidate the power of the Spanish monarchy. Infamous for its cruelty and its abuse of power, the Inquisition was not disbanded until 1834.
They ran that shit for, 400 years.
That is wild.
When Cece visits Leona in Miami, she goes to the beach across from the Fontainebleau, a luxury hotel designed by Morris Lapidus that opened in 1954 and became known for its over-the-top extravagance. It actually merits an entry in the Encyclopedia of Bad Taste. And it's also mentioned in John Waters' Polyester.
Oh, wow.
Cece's career has numerous parallels to that of Bette Midler, including gaining a difficult reputation on the set of a movie. In Bette's case, in real life, it was the movie Jinxed, and making an ill-advised attempt to become a disco queen. In Bette's case, it was an album called Thighs and Whispers.
This is the story of a young girl who was the Einstein of the dance.
Cher becoming a disco queen was way more successful. That is a woman who knows how to be a dance floor diva.
The illness that ultimately kills Hillary is cardiomyopathy, a disease that weakens the heart muscle and makes it more difficult for the heart to pump blood. So, Peter, were there any outstanding Gary Marshall fashions in Beaches?
So the first one that made me laugh was the dress that little Hillary was wearing in the 1958 flashback. It's almost like this pinafore thing. It's white and a little bit lavender. It's all frilly, and it looks very funny. And it does accurately convey that she's this very privileged, poised little girl, but it's still funny. I also want to give a shout out to the black frilly dress that Cece wears when she goes to visit her mother in Miami. I assume the joke is that it is inappropriate for the beach. Do not wear black in Florida. You will be miserable. I also really liked the dress that Cece is wearing when she and Hillary reunite after Sizzle. It's got a very full skirt. It's got a nice off-the-shoulder thing to it. It's white, and it is very striking, and it does convey that now she's sold out, now she's nouveau riche, and now she's tacky, but it also looks really nice, so sometimes tacky is good.
I was just thinking of Bette's hat in O Industry.
Yes, it is an amazing top hat. It's very Mad Hatter.
And my God, the costumes in Otto Titzling, like what the patent thief is wearing.
He's like a French Dick Dastardly.
Yes!
And Bette Midler's dirndl.
Oh my God, the dirndl. So, Peter, I will ask that age-old, timeless question. Was Beaches any good?
It had its moments, I guess.
This movie has some fun sequences, particularly the musical numbers. I think its main failing as a movie is that I was not moved by the friendship of Cece and Hillary, and it's largely because I didn't believe the friendship of Cece and Hillary. One review that I read that I really agreed with said that this movie is about two women who had a fun afternoon together when they were 11 and then spent the rest of their lives insisting that they're friends. And that's what the characters do. They don't generally seem to enjoy each other's company. They are at best conditionally supportive of each other's careers, and they seem to have to force themselves on each other to spend time with each other. So they're not like Laverne and Shirley, who you could imagine really would spend time together, who really would hang out. I never got that Cece and Hillary would really be friends. And Hillary is such a vaguely defined character that I didn't really feel much when she died, unfortunately. apart from the scenes where Grace Johnston is so sad over her mother's death, that affected me because Grace Johnston feels real to me in this movie in a way that Bette Midler and Barbara Hershey's friendship does not seem real. I did not cry at the end of the movie. I didn't feel even close to it. I just was kind of numb by the end of Beaches. So in that sense, I don't think that the film succeeds because I didn't really feel much about the friendship.
I think a lot of that has to do with the pacing and the fact that because of how the movie is structured, there have to be these long periods of time where Cece and Hillary are not in each other's lives except through letters. And the letters are just mostly conveyed through voiceover, which gets the job done but isn't super effective.
It becomes wearying over the course of the movie. Did you buy them as real friends?
Sometimes I did. I liked them when they were roommates. After that, you do get the sense that it is, like you said, kind of conditional. And it doesn't help that most of when they do hang out is them arguing. You can't have a friendship that's just arguments and emotional breakthroughs. That sounds exhausting.
Cece and Hillary are two women who have to be friends because no sane person would want to spend a lot of time with either one of them. Cece obviously would be exhausting, and Hillary really isn't all that fun. Ultimately, would you recommend that people watch Beaches? I would say that they could safely skip it without missing anything vital, but what would you say?
Yeah, I don't really recommend Beaches. If you've heard Wind Beneath My Wings a million times and you want the context for it, maybe, but I don't think you're going to get much out of it.
So, Peter, how can people keep up with us and find out about all the wonderful things that we are doing?
Listeners can follow me on Blue Sky at petervolfrank.bsky.social.
They can follow me on Blue Sky at joeblevins.bsky.social. They can find this podcast at thesedaysarsours.libsyn.com, and they can email us with questions, comments, and concerns at thesedaysarspodcast@gmail.com. So, Peter, what do we have on the docket the next time we get together?
Next time, we are talking about a legitimate phenomenon. A sensation. A movie that even if you have never seen it before, you probably know everything about it because it is just that big.
Mercy.
It is Pretty Woman.
This was another movie that was such a juggernaut and obviously launched a superstar career. So, see you later, alligator.
In a while, crocodile.
Goodbye to you, my trusted friend. We've known each other since we were 9 or 10. Together we've climbed hills and trees. Learned of love and ABCs. Skinned our hearts and skinned our knees. Goodbye, my friend, it's hard to die. And all the birds are singing in the sky. Now that spring is in the air. Little children everywhere think of me and I'll be there.
We had joy, we had fun, we had seasons in the sun. But the hills we had climbed were just seasons out of time.
Oh no, Bette Midler.